Cents Per Mile, featuring Charles Gracie, Paul Gibson, and Josh Haynes. Everyone knows the trucking industry has issues, but most people are afraid to talk about it.
Someone's got to do it.
With loads of recruiting and marketing experience and backed by the largest driver audience in the world, we deliver carriers the driver perspective, find solutions, and help make sense make sense.
Thank you for tuning in to Cents Per Mile. I'm your host, Charles Gracie.
And I'm your co-host, Paul Gibson.
Hey, I'm Josh Haynes. Gentlemen, what are we talking about today?
We're having questions and answers with the smartest guy in transportation, and it's not me this time.
It's not. Wait, this time?
I was waiting for you to catch it.
Right. Okay, cool. If you have any questions, no matter how obscure it is, at least he's going to have some sort of reference near it. And I think it's pretty objective. One of my favorite people. But before we do that, we got to say all the stuff that we always say. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you could subscribe, rate, it helps push us out so we can get more momentum. So we can do cooler stuff.
You can also go to centspermilepodcast.com where you can suggest a topic, submit to be a guest, or even to be a sponsor.
Sponsors. Who's our sponsor today, Charles?
We have Mesilla Valley Transportation. They're the largest, most efficient, privately owned transportation fleet in the U.S. You can visit them at m-v-t.com.
All right. Well, that means it's time for the news. All right, so it's time for 10-2 News, where we look at CDLlife and check out some of the coolest stories, most interesting stories, most helpful stories, all kinds of stories from the last couple of weeks, and we talk about them. So, Charles, you are actually going to start doing part of the news. What do you got for us this week?
So this one was sent in by one of our viewers, and I thought it was interesting because they know we're always bashing or tossing a little bit of shade towards the ATA. It's not personal, it's business. And so they sent us something to show. Good business. I don't
speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
But they wanted to show us that they are doing things that further the experience for the drivers. So they sent me a link for a press release that went out on December 18th, right before the holidays. And I'm going to read a little bit, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about my feelings on this. Today, the American Trucking Association applauded a House passage of the Transportation Security Screening Modernization Act. The bill now heads to President Biden's desk to be signed into law. For far too long, truck drivers who keep our country running have been subjected to an outdated, inefficient credentialing system that does not respect their time or money. This begins to change today by taking the final step needed to eliminate unnecessary red tape and hurdles. Congress will provide essential supply chain workers overdue relief from redundant background checks. It goes on to explain what this involves, and I'll speak from personal experience as a driver who hauled hazmat. When you're getting TWIC or hazmat, you used to have to get a background check for each. Here's where I'll share my personal opinion on this. This is beneficial to the carriers and only to the drivers that are going through the TWIC or hazmat process. This does not actually improve the experience of the job. This does not improve anything other than the onboarding aspect, which does need improvement. So it's certainly a step in the right direction. But many of the times, if you already did your TWIC in background, the hazmat one came back really fast because they're running the same thing essentially, and the system caught that. So is there an extra cost? Yes. Generally, that cost, unless you're an owner-operator, was passed on to the carrier. So is it saving drivers money? Yeah, I mean, in some regard, it's saving carriers money. It's improving the onboarding process for carriers. Drivers might have to go through this process. You might be talking extra couple sheets of paper. It saves them, but it's a step in the right direction. But certainly, I would not categorize this as a win for drivers. I definitely categorize this as a win for trucking, but definitely not for drivers, because let's face it, there's way bigger issues: parking, bathroom access, things that we could be addressing that actually improve the overall experience of being a driver.
Yep. I would. I don't. I like how nice you're being about it. I love that. Positivity, the new year. That was not on my resolutions list. All right, seriously. So all that happens is you get both cards at the same time.
Both background checks at the same time.
Right.
Not cards.
Well, but you get the card for completing the background check and stuff.
Hopefully,
I guess there's other,
unless you fail the background check,
which is possible. Now, so you get that, and it's all in one place, and you can hang on to it. It's just like
it was always in one place, to be transparent.
I feel like giving a driver a free hot dog on Driver Appreciation Week is more helpful for drivers as a whole than this is. And you know how we feel about that.
Yeah, I get it. If the ATA wants me to come out and share my honest opinion about things that are going to help the driver experience, it's going to be pay. It's going to be transparency, like the Pay Transparency Act in marketing. I think that's great. I know there's certain people that might not feel the same about it. I think it's great. As somebody that used to be a driver, I should know what I'm making, and you should be accountable to put realistic data, not your top 2% or what you wish I would make. This right here, it's a win for transportation. I will not take that away because it was redundant, but by no means does it improve the overall driver experience. And if we try to categorize that, then we're doing ourselves and our drivers a misservice.
So I didn't quite fully get to my point. And it's not that the ATA pushed for this or had something that became successful. My problem is Congress. We constantly complain about like, oh, there's a bill that could give drivers access to bathrooms. Oh, there's a bill to change the way that the labor is categorized, which could be a huge win for drivers, change the way they get paid. Oh, maybe like someone proposed to fix hours of service in a way to where drivers aren't putting themselves in a terrible situation when they get paid per mile. Oh, there's legislation about parking. Oh, you can get your TWIC and hazmat at the same time. What the hell, so that's a good time to swap to my story real fast. We don't even really have to get that into it. It just shows where the emphasis is. So the FMCSA is studying whether or not caution triangles that commercial vehicles put behind them when they're on the side of the road actually works. Is it safe? Is it productive? I think that, there's an element to it, but, good on them. Safety is important. I don't want anybody getting the back of their trailer rammed into. I don't want anybody to run into the back of a trailer because they're not paying attention when they go down a road. And, so they started to work on it this year. And so it says an experimental study that requires data collection for evaluating whether warning devices meaningfully influence crash relevant aspects of human performance and the presence of a parked or disabled commercial motor vehicle. And if so, how and to what extent? Now, so, all of that is cool. It's really, they're just like, they're seeing if there is a value to those things for drivers. And one of the important aspects is human performance. And so the reason why that's important is this entire thing comes from a relief request from two different companies that are working on driverless trucks. Because if it's a driverless truck and that truck has to move over to the side of the road, there's no one to put out the triangle.
Well,
it's literally about not people.
Well, all right. On this one, being a former driver, I will tell you, like, you could get ticketed for not putting out your triangles after a certain amount of time on the side of the road. They're meant to raise awareness, to make people look. I think the bigger play here would be actual enforcement of move over and slow down, which has nationally been applied. When someone's broke down on the side of the road, you're supposed to slow down and move over. And they do it for ambulances and police, but they generally won't do it for truck drivers. I've even gotten to the point where truck drivers don't do it for truck drivers anymore. You see it all the time driving down the road, and that is a hazard. And if you look at how many times someone's been run over while they've been broke down on the shoulder, you find it's a significant number when it should be zero.
Right. But those triangles could potentially help prevent that. What they're deciding with this information is, do you really need to put that out there? Do we need that? Does it make a difference? It makes you feel safer. It's safe. You normally get ticketed, but if they figure out that it doesn't work, you're not going to get ticketed. But that decision was never decided by you. And they're not focusing on why you're parked on the side of the road. They're parked on making it possible for driverless trucks. Safety doesn't matter. None of that matters. It's whether or not driverless trucks, need to figure out some other way to put out caution things. Anyway, I'm mad. Let's go to Behind the Desk with Tenstreet.
It's time to go behind the desk with Tenstreet, and we have Christy Choice with us. Welcome.
Hey there, how's it going?
It's going. There's so much going on already in 2025. We're getting ready for a transition for politics. We're seeing the market rebound. Some people have mixed feelings on why it's rebounding. We had a prime minister step down. I mean, there's a lot happening out there already. It's not murder hornets. or some terrible virus going around. So I mean,
flu.
Yeah, doing pretty good so far. Yep, I agree. Well, 2025 is going to be an interesting year, but we are so prepared more than ever, I think, to do two things from the Tenstreet perspective: connect and collaborate, right? We don't know what's going to happen, right? We don't have that crystal ball to tell us what it's going to be, but we want to make sure that we're being responsive, right? And we're connecting with our clients and our vendor partners and our friends out there in the industry, and that we're collaborating, that we're pulling all of our resources and knowledge together to be as responsive as we can. And so a couple of things that are going on with Tenstreet: we are about 119 days away from our user conference in Las Vegas. So we're super duper excited about that. It's always a super fun time. So if anyone out there needs to get registered, you absolutely can. And I have a special promo code. Use Jingle. It's going to be live through the end of January, and you're going to get $200 off of your user conference registration. So that's happening, and we're preparing for it. We also pushed user conference back a little bit. It's in May this year, so May 7th through the 10th. It's usually in April, so that's another change that's happening. But again, we want to make sure we connect and we collaborate with all of our people in the industry. Some other things that are going on, we have a product of the month that we're going to make sure is a focus throughout the year. And for January, it's wellness, it's Pulse Wellness. And so really interesting ways to use Driver Pulse to create like friendly competitions and leaderboards and things like that are going to help drivers to stay more active, and for them to see the collaboration between themselves and other people within their fleet. So really fun stuff. And people just really need to stay connected, just like we are with Cents Per Mile. It's always a lot of stuff going on, but we want to make sure that we are helping and that we're active and we're responsive. It's going to be a good year though.
There was a lot to digest there. First off, definitely use code Jingle, save yourself $200. Yeah. And who misses the Tenstreet conference in Vegas? I know it got pushed back this year, and I have my theory behind this. It's because WrestleMania was taking place at the same time when it was. I know. I was like, for you wrestling fans out there, you were about to be able to get a double feature, Tenstreet and WWE, but it was prevented. Bigger forces at play here. Also, you said you guys don't have the crystal ball. I disagree. I always view you guys as that all-seeing eye at the top of the tower. You see it all.
Yeah.
You're telling me you don't have that in the background?
Oh man, I wish.
So that's exciting stuff.
Yeah.
That's exciting stuff you guys got going. So January's focus is going to be wellness. That's a huge push. Let's keep our drivers driving, and that starts with being aware that we need to make better choices out on the road.
Yeah.
And then you gave us a discount code. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to save money? And if you don't want to save money, I'm right here. Let me know. I'll give you my Venmo.
Yeah. For sure, for sure. Well, I'm really excited about Pulse Wellness because we have so many active users in the Driver Pulse app every single month. And as we track that information, it's well into six figures every single month. And these are unique active users, right? And so they're not always going into the job search. They're completing forms, they're communicating with the carrier, right? These are sometimes hired drivers that are just, looking for another way to stay active and connected. And so why not use the fact that they're already in the app, they're already connected, and push things farther to make sure that your initiatives to keep them healthy, to keep them active, to keep them moving are there in an app that they're already using to stay connected with you. So I'm really excited about it, and it's going to be really fun.
So if someone wants to learn more about all of this, where's a good place that they can go exercise using Jingle and saving $200 or check out on wellness?
Absolutely. Just go to the Tenstreet website, www.tenstreet.com. We are excited, and we keep the website updated with all the information about user conference, with our upcoming webinars, our road shows, like all of the things that we talk about, they're in the website. So they can start there or just reach out to someone at Tenstreet directly. Hello. But yeah, we're excited to always connect and collaborate.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. And keep in mind, I did drop the idea, the seed of an idea, WrestleMania, Tenstreet, same time. Imagine the cage match we could put together in transportation.
Oh yeah.
Did you guys did you have to did you have to wrestle with the idea of moving it?
You couldn't resist.
I see what you did there. No. I was actually excited about it, but every year, we have the conversations with our clients. Hey, why aren't you there? Does this timing work out? And it just kind of worked out that we would push it back just a little bit. But I think Easter is also later this year, and it usually coincides around that.
I was sad.
Oh.
I will note publicly, I was sad because I always looked forward to going there and seeing my freight friends in Vegas, and it was my birthday each time. Now it's not.
Yeah, now it's not. Yeah, we did that to spite you, Charles.
I see.
That's why I like you guys.
So yeah, we're excited. It's a little bit farther, just only a couple of weeks different, but we're excited about it, and we're going to be unveiling some new really cool tools and products. So it's going to be a great time as always. UConnect 2025 Tenstreet User Conference.
And I hear cents per mile is going to be there, so you need to be there. Great stuff, great content, great people, and it's in Vegas. Feeling lucky. So use Jingle, save $200.
Oh yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, Christy.
Oh, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Mesilla Valley Transportation, founded by truck drivers for truck drivers. Why choose MVT? Well, it's simple.
I started off as a driver. Now I'm managing routes. With MVT, the sky's the limit.
Balance is key. State-of-the-art equipment, a strong focus on safety, and a family-driven company culture where respect and hard work are at the core. Mesilla Valley Transportation, where we care about you. Join our family today.
Well, now that we're back from all of that and paying the bills, it's time to make sense. And we have Thomas, the Wizard of Trucking. Welcome to Cents Per Mile in 2025, my friend.
Boom. It's a new year, and happy to be on the show. Super hyped.
I'm going to start calling you Gandalf the Freight.
I like
the
it.
Freight Wizard, which
you
also
got
is
Dr. Phil of Trucking, Gandalf of Freight.
There's an actual thing called the Load Wizard or the Freight Wizard, and it is a software since 1986.
No, but it's
So
like
yeah,
Gandalf
you
the
can't
Gray.
use that then. You can use Gandalf the Freight though.
Yeah, Gandalf.
No,
I love that.
Like the gray or the white. And it's like, no, Gandalf the Freight.
We need to do that where I find the company, they made a tactical wizard hat now for $60, and I could make that into like a tactical trucking wizard hat. I mean, we can make this something.
We just need to make Charles a hobbit.
Yeah, that's not happening.
One rig to rule them all.
So, Thomas, it's new year, new me. Is it a new trucking?
Oh, well, it depends on who you ask. That's the wonderful thing. Equities and analysts and stuff are saying, well, fourth quarter is going to be great because fourth quarter last year really sucked. And so this is the year that things, and I know that people said it last year, but last year really sucked. This is the year things suck less. And I think that's the important thing to take in consideration. I just want, the freight recession is over, but that's also like, after everything has burned down, you're trying to clear the area to rebuild it. It still sucks. So I don't want listeners to think that we've suddenly fixed the problem and we have the mission accomplished flag. By no means has that happened, but we are seeing some good trends, which is that things are returning to pre-pandemic, and I can slightly predict how things look instead of my data set is skewered because all y'all bought too much crap.
So let me ask you this. We know that optimism drove the market up a little bit after the election results came out. People started feeling more confident, started spending. But from a lot of conversations I've been having, we're starting to see that dial down a little bit now. And we're coming off the optimism mountain and more to, hey, this is the reality. People understand that there is a pretty good certainty that tariffs are coming into play. So right now things look good because a lot of people are shipping stuff here. Once the tariffs come into play, is there going to be a huge slowdown?
It really just depends. I wish I had like a spicier take, which would be like, hell yeah, hell no. But it's January. Anyone who's been in trucking for more than a year or two know January and February just sucks. And it's always sucked. And we see that in the data right now. Tender rejections are back down. Spot rates are stable. But if you're reefer, dude, reefer madness, bell of the ball, smaller percent of the market. I think it's 20% of our data set or something like that. They're having a fun time. So if you're specialized, you're going to have a fun time. If you're dry van, it's better, but it's also worse. There's a lot of unanswered questions. One of them being the tariff, the big T word. And one of those is going to be, what's the impact? I read something. Now, this is wild. China's yields, China has some macro problems. Their currency right now is falling versus the dollar. You could theoretically add a crap ton of tariffs, and because China has devalued their currency by accident, you won't feel it.
With that, speaking of that, I don't really know a lot about maritime stuff and, shipping in oceans. Because it's 2025 and we're about to get back to a 24-hour news cycle, regardless of how you feel about anything. It just comes with a package. Renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Do you think that could have any actual effect on maritime?
I hope it does. I love James K. Polk. You ever remember that map he drew that took over most of Mexico and Canada? James K. Polk is coming back, folks, and we're just going to build it all back. But, in seriousness, renaming it or not, I think one of the big three things I'm thinking about is, one, if tariffs happen, will more stuff be shipped? We saw yes and no because of the pull forward, but they also pull forward because of we had 2 pull forwards. So is there going to be a third pull forward? How many pull forwards are we going to get? That's the question I don't know. Secondly, if we do pull forward, will the rail and intermodal gobble it all up? So far, they're doing really good. October in the intermodal space is supposed to be the peak of the peak, but it kept chugging along. Spoke with Mike Bowden-Distel. They're still looking good. And so for the truckers in the truckload segment, the question's going to be like, they're the catfish in terms of LA and other stuff. Will it come down and will they get more? We really don't know yet. If you think about 70-ish%, a vast majority of that crap coming out of Port of LA goes on rail. So you're looking at rail, you need an intermodal from ramp to ramp and everything. So there's some big questions. We'll find the answers in earnings calls. So pay attention. Earnings is starting. A lot of people are talking. Let's listen in. Listen to Knight Swift and a few other CEOs from the mega carriers, their bellwethers. How is their vibe? Because if you hear like JB Hunt super excited because they're really mostly intermodal and dedicated, you know that they're getting the cream of the crop. But if you hear the truckload carriers, they're like, hell yeah, guidance is good. Let's go. Then we'll figure it out. So we know that there's a lot of cool stuff on the demand side. We just don't know if we're going to get a cut or if it's like trying to eat Thanksgiving with John Goodman and he hands you a half-eaten turkey leg. We just don't know. That's a Family Guy sketch. You can't sue me.
So, holidays are over. A lot of people are happy for that. They're getting their money built back up. They're going back to the stores, including our incoming president. He had a couple things in his shopping cart, like Canada, Greenland, Panama Canal, the Gulf of America. I mean, do you think any of these things are going to come to fruition? And if so, the impact that they would have on freight?
This is a really great filter for who's an 80 IQ midwit. I'm going to be very honest. Because people, just throw it out there, okay? When you negotiate, it's called setting the table.
It's Charles. Charles is the
Here's negotiation 101. When you set the table, your goal is to come to an agreement. You want to give things up and they give things up. That way we both feel like we got something, but nobody really won. The secret to making a good negotiation is threatening to buy Greenland, and threatening to take over the Panama Canal, threatening to rename the Gulf of Mexico, and threatening tariffs. Because if you've already set the table with all of those, all you need to do is carry out on one, and everyone's like, crap, he's going to do it or not. That's all posturing. So what this may boil down to is a security agreement. Panama Canal reduces the amount of placed on ships. Mexico decides to crack down. They already did on China, by the way. Mexico makes like 15 to 30% of their government revenue on customs crap, depending upon who you ask. So they don't like that China's backdooring them as well. So yeah, I think for the listeners, it's a glorious time to be alive. It's hilarious to read, but some people are really getting worked up. Don't get worked up. I mean, this is just negotiation. And for a lot of people, they're not used to presidents actually threatening things. Like, we're kind of the world hegemon right now. We're one of the largest and most powerful countries that has ever roamed the earth. The Romans would wet themselves if they wished they were cool as us. Like, we accidentally discovered Roman concrete building the Erie Canal, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah.
There's actually stories.
Real quick, I think we're pretty close out of time, and we have questions, but we want someone smarter than us to ask a question. So, Thomas, I would ask you, what is the dark horse question that nobody is asking that is going to make the biggest difference in 2025, in your opinion?
Ooh, two big questions. Foreign immigration and trucking. How big is this? I hear a lot about it on social media, drivers, immigrants. When I worked at a mega carrier, I had drivers who couldn't speak English very well, but we never had issues where like they got deported or like maybe this is a small carrier problem. That's one of my questions. How big is this? Maybe it's a Canada problem. I don't know. Gord's done great reporting on it. Second question's going to be like, what's the FMCSA going to do? Like, that's my dark horse. Like,
that's what we've been asking for years. What do they do?
Are they going to do anything is the other funny part. But yeah, that's the biggest one because everyone's talking about drivers and the quality of drivers, but it's always been a making sausage thing. And now we're finally paying attention and we're mad over the fact that they're puppy mills, they're CDL mills, and we've figured out how it works. But that's one of my big ones. My dark horse one is like, is that going to make a difference? Because I mean, like, I'd love
not as much of a difference as combining background checks for hazmat and TWIC.
Which is crazy. You have to go through that. Like, I'm glad they're speeding it up at least, but that's kind of like, here's an extra 3 cents a mile while you're still working on the treadmill.
But they also just dropped the clearinghouse a couple years ago. So it's like, oh, we should probably take one away for what we added.
Oh, yeah. That's a fun one. We could do a whole episode on the Fun Clearinghouse. They were like 180,000 or something are no longer there, but allegedly it really only impacted like 5,000 because most of these carriers, if they're doing their jobs right, you'll catch this crap, but apparently not. So yeah, I got a few questions. Big dark horse, the conversation over drivers.
Yeah.
CDLlife has the largest, most engaged driver audience in the world and is the #1 platform for driver-facing news, entertainment, and community. With millions of monthly page views on our news site, a social reach of over 71 million, and over 600,000 app downloads, it all adds up to 1 billion driver touchpoints a year. If your company is looking for drivers, you just found them.
Well, I think that about cuts it, but we got a lot going on this year. Cents per mile is going to be here each week. Just stick with us, and thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Charles Gracie.
And I'm your co-host, Paul Gibson.